Hey, folks, welcome to this episode of JamesPod. Today, I've got a really great guest, Honorable Chris Falcon. He is the Fairfax Clerk of the Court here in Fairfax County. So, Chris, Your Honor, I appreciate you coming on.
James, good to see you. Thanks for having me on again. I appreciate it.
So the reason we wanted to have you on, Chris, you and your team and your stakeholders are doing a pretty important thing here in Fairfax. And I'm throwing up a flyer here. Why don't you first of all tell us what you want to talk about, and then we'll kind of get into the details.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So when I ran for the position of the clerk of the circuit court in 2022, 2023, one of the things that I was very clear about that I thought needed to happen was for Fairfax County to have an expungement clinic. So I'll talk a little bit about what these are, but they're clinics that some of the surrounding localities have been putting together over the past couple of years so that people can, one, learn about the expungement process, which is a law in Virginia that allows people currently to petition to remove charges from their criminal record for things that did not end in a conviction, for things where they were either found not guilty, the charges were dismissed, or they were null pros by the prosecutor's office. Many people may not be aware, but in Virginia, those charges stay on your record unless you go through the step of expungement. So I was part of the team in Arlington before I left. I worked there for 9.5 years as a deputy clerk and civil division supervisor. We worked along with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office to put on one of these clinics in 2022 and then again in 2023. And they're important events because are so many people who cannot physically make it to the courthouse Monday through Friday to file legal paperwork for a variety of reasons. One is lack of transportation. The others are some people may not have paid time off from their jobs. Some people do not have childcare. So I believed, and we worked with the Commonwealth Attorney in Arlington, who shared the same idea, that we have a duty to make it a little bit easier for people and create and run these clinics where on a Saturday, on a typical, on some, may not be a work day for some, they can come to a location, a neutral location that's not the courthouse, because the courthouse itself, you know this, is intimidating for many people. Where they can come and get on-site legal assistance from volunteer attorneys, from staff from the courthouse in a non-intimidating environment and get help with filling out the paperwork to petition to expunge eligible charges. So the last one of these that I ran, fall of 2023, I believe we had 55 petitions filed in 3 hours. I was very happy with that result. I believe we can do better than that with this upcoming one that we're going to do in Fairfax County. So when I was running for this job to be the clerk of the circuit court in Fairfax, I was clear that we needed to bring these and that I was going to organize one. And thankfully, Supervisor Rodney Lusk was in attendance one day at one of my speeches, and him and I started talking, and he said, Chris, when you do this, let's do the first one in my district. And I'm like, done. No one else has asked, so let's do it, Rodney. But I think it's going to be a great event. I appreciate you giving me this time and space to talk about it. People can see the flyer there, but the main organizers are our office, the Fairfax Circuit Court, the clerk's office, the supervisor Rodney Lusk from Franconia District, and then our Commonwealth's attorney, Steve Descano.
And then you've got additional folks here, OAR, Fairfax NAACP. I can't read this. That's Fairfax County.
Fairfax County Neighborhood and Community Services is the other one.
Great.
All of those are partners of ours in this effort. NAACP will actually, Fairfax NAACP will be holding a voter registration drive, a nonpartisan voter registration drive outside of the event. But I think this is going to be an incredible event. I am confident we're going to get a lot of people. We haven't, this is the first effort that we're doing right now to start doing advertising of the event. We had put the link up on our website, James. We've already had 12 people sign up.
Great.
I think it's going to be huge. We're a month out roughly. You know, I think in an ideal world, we get it fully filled, and then we have people that are on a wait list for a future event. The big draw, obviously, is we're getting the filing fee sponsored. Sorry, I buried the lead on that one.
Yeah. Well, so first of all, let's make sure we and I'm not sure if you said it directly. September 13 at 9 a.m. to noon, and we've got the address up here. It's at the can you pronounce that community center?
Yeah,
Hybla?
absolutely. So September 13th, 9 a.m. to noon, and it's at the Hybla Valley Community Center. And this is in the
Okay.
southern part of Fairfax County, right off of Route 1.
Okay, and for folks that are watching this, would like access to this flyer, in the show notes, I'm going to link it to it. The only way I could do it is link it to my website, then you can just pull it down from there. And what's cool here is Chris is all technically savvy. There is a little Scantron here that you can essentially just take a picture with your phone and it'll link you up. So I guess you can register virtually. Is that right?
That's all the IT team. I'm not taking credit for that, but yeah, the QR code there, people can
QR
use
code,
their phone, or they can also just click on it if they're looking at the PDF version, and that'll direct them to the website where they can get more information and then also enroll in the clinic.
Yeah, and I'll tell folks, because I do a bit of criminal defense, and we'll get great results. And when we do, a lot of times people will forget to do expungements, and they don't think it's that important. It matters here in Virginia. It matters for housing. It matters for applications. It matters for job employment. It matters for aid. It matters. And so essentially, what this petition process is, you're essentially suing the government. You're suing the government to seal the record. So Chris, I appreciate you taking time to do that. Now, let's walk through the logistics of let's say I show up at 9:30. What can I expect when I get there, and what should I be bringing with me?
Yeah, absolutely. So the registration form is going to provide 3 different windows of time people can sign up: 9 a.m., 10 a.m., and 11 a.m. So if you're showing up at 9:30, you're probably either a little late for the 9 a.m. slot or you're early for the 10 a.m. But you'll come in, you'll meet people from the circuit court clerk's office who are there to sign you in and direct you over to the volunteer attorneys or to the waiting area to see one of the volunteer attorneys. And that's going to be one of my big asks today on the show to your listeners, to the members of the bar in Northern Virginia. If you're listening, we could really use your help. You will have a very, very, very grateful clerk of the court if you come and help us out on Saturday, September 13th. We're all supposed to be doing pro bono hours as part of being members of the Virginia State Bar. I believe 2% of our time at least is supposed to go towards pro bono. This is an excellent way to do it and give back to your community. But sorry to get sidetracked.
No,
people come in
part of,
and they'll, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason I'm doing this whole podcast thing is, at the end of the day, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. This is a tangible way you, as a lawyer, I'll be there. You, as a lawyer, you can come and help. By the way, do you have to be a criminal defense lawyer? Do you have to know how to do expungements, or what? If you're a lawyer looking to help, what can they do? Let's say you're a real estate lawyer.
You don't have to be a criminal defense lawyer. Obviously, it helps. In the past clinic that we ran, there were members of the, I believe, public defender's office that came and volunteered that day. But there were civil attorneys that came that had, educated themselves on the expungement process. One of them, I think, I had met with in advance of the clinic just to kind of go over the petition for expungement form and show them where on the warrants of arrest and the final disposition they'll find the information that they need to help the person complete what is essentially a fill-in-the-blank form, the state petition for expungement form. But no, you don't have to be a criminal defense practitioner to volunteer for this event. We welcome all.
Yeah, and just I always tell people, potential clients, I'm not Johnny Cochran. If I can figure this out, you can figure it out. In a lot of ways, the expungement petition process is a bureaucratic thing, and it I wish it was a lot easier, and frankly, we'll talk about the changes coming in 2026. But as we stand here today, it requires a bit of legwork. But this clinic I think it clarifies a lot of uncertainty for folks. I'm just trying to do the thing. So did you say what the folks should be bringing in with them in order to help them through this process?
I didn't. Thank you for that reminder. So the flyer reminds people that they need to bring certified copies of the warrant of arrest and final disposition for each charge that they want to expunge. So most of those will be from the General District Court clerk's office. So we've been being in communication with the GDC, the General District Court here in Fairfax, to let them know they're going to be receiving copy requests for those. But it's very important that people bring those with them in order to be able to have a successful clinic. They will then be given blank petitions for expungement and orders while they're meeting with the volunteer attorneys, but that is required to get that in advance. So we put that on the flyer. We're going to have that in the registration email that they get, the follow-up email, just to remind people, we really don't want, people coming and taking time out of their day to only find out they didn't have the required paperwork that day.
Yeah, and for folks, final certified disposition, it's just a fancy word to say that you got the final document where the court dismissed it or whatever, and then certified just means that it got stamped by the clerk saying that you didn't make it up. It's an accurate document. So don't be overwhelmed by that.
Thank you for saying it a lot better than me, James.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just the final copies of the end of the case, right?
Yeah, and to get those, you need to go to the clerk's office where the case was done and just ask the clerk. And if you're not even sure how to phrase it, just say, look, I'm trying to get the document I need to be able to file a petition for expungement. Most of them will know what that is. So what will actually be done at the clinic? Will you actually come out with a final petition? Will it actually be filed for? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so the folks meet with the volunteer attorneys, they complete the petitions for expungement, they come back and they file it with members of our staff that are going to be there that day, opening the cases live, assigning a case number to the petitions for expungement, walking away with date-stamped copies of the live case that they have filed at that clinic. And then the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office will be the last stop on their little path through the High Bluff Valley Community Center to leave a copy with them. They've been served with these records. We won't be doing fingerprinting live at the event, but we have prepared our amazing intern, Priscilla, who we had this summer, helped us prepare a one-pager that frankly we should have had before, but now we have it, that we're going to give to people that lets them know you now have to go get your fingerprints, because that can cause delays, of course, if people don't remember with everything that's happening when they typically file these at the front counter in the clerk's office, that they also needed to go get their fingerprints and leave a filed copy of the petition there with law enforcement. So they're walking away with 2 date stamp copies and instructions on the last step that hopefully will lead them to a successful conclusion, which is a granted expungement from the court.
And just to help people understand, when you say they need to get their fingerprints, what does that mean? Why do they need to get their fingerprints taken in this process? What does that have to do with it?
Absolutely. So the petitions for expungement get filed, and the next step is their information for the applicant has to be run through the criminal database that the Virginia State Police runs. So the way it works here in Fairfax is people will go through the police to police headquarters, and we'll have that one pager that tells them where to go. And then they get their fingerprints done on a fingerprint card. They pay for that. And there'll be information about the costs associated with that in the email they receive. And then after the police take that fingerprint card in, they send it to the state police to run it in the criminal database to come back confirming that there's not additional charges, and confirming the information on the expungement are indeed things that are eligible. And then the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office will, of course, review everything too.
Yeah, and you also said, and you talked about bury the lead, filing fees waived. So that's normally $86, and so essentially you're saving almost $90 from doing it this way as well too.
Absolutely. Big thanks to Supervisor Rodney Lusk. He and his office are sponsoring the filing fees for this event. That's huge, right? Because if the $86, which is more typically because people usually have to pay an additional $12 for share of service to have it served if they're not going to go personally serve it. So it's about $100 is a lot for our residents, for many of our neighbors. I mean, we're talking the difference of rent money here. So this is a significant advantage for people to come to this clinic and take advantage of this. Later on, the law is going to change to get rid of the filing fee, which I love. But in the meantime, we can save people a little bit of money, realizing that times are very difficult right now.
So you go to the clinic, you get your petition filled out, you get your fingerprint cards, you get your fingerprints taken. What should folks expect after that? How does the process work after you've done this expungement clinic successfully?
Yeah, absolutely. So they will get a follow-up email when they've registered. They will walk away with their filed petitions. They will have an instruction sheet that tells them to get their fingerprints, and then the waiting game begins.
Mm.
Hopefully, in Fairfax, we don't have an assigned hearing date for every petition for expungement. It goes under review. They only get a hearing if there's going to be an issue with it, if there's an objection or some problem.
Mm.
But otherwise, they're getting in a court order that lets them know that the charges have been expunged, and then tells them instructions on what are the next steps for that to actually not show up on their record. I wish it were immediate. That's an
Yeah.
important thing for people to know. I'm sure you've encountered it. People thought, oh, it's been granted by the court. Cool. It won't
Yeah.
show up when I apply for this thing tomorrow. No, it's still got to make its way through the bureaucratic mess, but
Mm.
hopefully that can start shortening a little bit soon.
Yeah, and I just so people know, Fairfax is unique in that a lot of times you don't have to have a hearing. I think the courts, the clerk's office and the Commonwealth's attorney's office worked great result out there to essentially not have to require you to come into court just to hear a judge say, "Yeah, I'm signing the order." So I appreciate whatever work you all did to do that. It's great here in Fairfax. So.
That predated me, but I'm a big fan of that.
Oh, okay.
Having come from a jurisdiction that had an assigned hearing date for every single one of these, which is a big deal because you'll have
Yes.
people that have moved out of this area, right?
Mhm.
And they've come back to file this paperwork. Yeah, credit to those that were here before me for making that happen.
Yeah, well, we'll just give you credit and we'll just claim
Thank
it
you.
for your own. And again, guys, just here's the flyer. You'll be able to get in the show notes here. Go ahead and register. Click on the QR code and get it done. Thanks to Rodney Lusk, obviously you and Commonwealth Scano and all the groups here willing to help out because I've been doing criminal defense for nearly 16 years, and efforts like this is just so important. To make people's lives just a little bit easier. So I really appreciate that. While I've got you, I had just a few questions, from a practitioner, kind of what it looks like on the back end of an expungement. So
Sure.
kind of walk us through the process. Once a petition gets expunged, what are you doing? What's your office doing? And just logistically, how does that work?
Absolutely. So I used to handle these personally in my prior office, and now I've gone and worked with the folks that do it here in Fairfax. So we get that court order back down, granting the expungement. We now have the job of getting that to Richmond and getting them copies, the Virginia State Police, of the expungement and the Library of Virginia. So they have to get that confirmed expungement back. We are returned fingerprint cards so that they can either be destroyed or returned to the applicant. A nice part of the law too that was updated a couple of years ago is people get their filing fee refunded. So there's work to be done on our end to get those $86 back to the person that opened the petition for expungement, that filed that. So that takes a while. We have a very high volume of these cases, so it's a lot of work on the back end that goes on with getting those copies of that order to the back to the state police, so that the person's criminal history can be updated, and we won't have these things popping up when they apply for jobs and whatnot.
Do you have a sense of like how many petitions you're handling a year currently?
I saw a number from last fiscal year that we had approximately 900 that were granted. I don't have the number total on filing, but I had seen that there was a significant increase from the prior fiscal year. So one of my jobs that I don't think it's not outlined in the Virginia Code that I'm supposed to be doing this, but I believe constitutional officers, I think, need to be doing more in terms of raising awareness about different laws that exist that are beneficial to the residents of our jurisdiction. So I've been talking a lot about expungement. I know that you've heard me talk about expungement because it is one of those things that I do somewhat control the narrative on. And I think it's a positive law that not nearly enough people know about and know that they have these rights to be able to complete paperwork, to get charges off their record for things they didn't do, right? If you want to just bring it down to a person speak, these are things that they were not convicted of. It's not right for them to follow them around and affect their ability to get employment, which I know it has. I've met countless people over my career, and including, I'll never forget the guy that was applying for a security guard job in prior jurisdiction where I worked. And he said they did a just search of the general district court system and found this thing. And he believed that it was the reason that he didn't end up getting this position. I don't think that needs to be happening in 2025, right? So credit to our state legislature for also being forward thinking and addressing this with some upcoming law changes.
Yeah, and that is a good transition. So talking about getting the word out, your duties, clerk, you think, what's happening July of 2026?
Absolutely. So we have a criminal sealing bill that's coming. I know there have been a number of people, State Senator Scott Surville, State Delegate Sharniel Herring, that brought forward a law a couple of years back in terms of criminal sealing of certain charges and misdemeanor offenses. And last year, this bill was amended, and now we have a go forward date of July 1st, 1986 for eligible charges. So I was part of a conference, James, a couple of months ago, public event with representatives from the different clerks of courts offices around the state to start talking about this. Actually, it's not start talking about it. They've been talking about it for years, but I'm new to the group since I was elected January of last year, but about how this is going to be implemented. The sealing bill is going to be massive. So it applies to old charges, which for our office, many of those are kept in paper format. So if we get a bulk sealing order containing thousands of eligible charges, we now have to go and apply that to hard files, to digital files. And to complicate matters even further, I don't want to get too nerdy on this, so I won't go too far, but some courts will have one criminal file that contain multiple charges, right? Multiple count indictments, and that's not separated into different case numbers. So it's a bit of a logistical nightmare, but the good news is we like work, right? We're all hardworking people here.
Keeps you employed, right?
Exactly, but it's going to be a good change. The famous example of marijuana possessions that have haunted people that do not go away will be addressed with this law. It's a long time coming. It's going to be a good thing. And also it comes with the change of getting rid of the filing fee for expungements, which I was very happy to hear during the conference.
Can you, and I could probably fill in a few gaps here, but can you give us kind of a 1,000-foot view of how does the law change charges in expungibility or sealability, I guess probably is a better, more accurate word. Like what is changing?
So one of the changes is that there's going to be automatic sealing of certain charges at the time of the offense. I have also spoken.
You mean at the time of the disposition?
Sorry, at the time of the disposition, not at the time of the offense. Thank you for catching me there.
Hiya, I'm innocent.
I know words matter in this career we've chosen. But no, at the time of the disposition, which is really important because I've also met people who thought that when their case concluded, it was all done, right? It goes away. And no, it didn't, right? And so that will address that. But it will also provide for petition-based sealing. So one of the questions I had, because I always have questions at these things, and probably annoying at these conferences, was, is there a form coming? I'm told there is. Good. I'll be looking out for that. Forms are nice, right? We all experience that there are a number of pro se litigants who try to do this themselves. Obviously, if it's not something that they can afford an attorney, we want to make things as easy as possible for people. But there will both be automatic sealing, also petition-based sealing. One thing that is important for people to know, that most of the courts in not in Fairfax, but in the Commonwealth of Virginia, utilize the state Supreme Court system. We do not. That's a known fact out there in the world. So I've been working since the beginning of my term, and we had started working on it before I arrived, to work with the Supreme Court and the Virginia State Police to create the pathway where information is going to go back and forth, where we're going to get eligible charges coming from the state police. We're going to seal it, and we're going to confirm that's happened. That's going to go back through the Supreme Court and the state police. So a lot has to happen for this to be able to be working on July 1st of next year. But the good news is you've had a court over here working on it for a while now.
Yeah, and my understanding, because this bill initially was supposed to go into effect July 1 of 2025, it got pushed back.
That's
and
right.
I think in large part because of the logistical nightmare. Is my feeling correct, or am I making that up?
That was part of it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we testified at hearings that we needed additional help to be able to make this happen. I know that my response was, I'll be there. I'll be working on these, but
Yeah.
you're adding this additional duty to us. You also need to include some funding for it. So again, big thanks to the General Assembly for providing the county clerks an additional staff member in last year's budget. So that will help immensely for this to actually be able to happen.
Do you think it's possible? And again, I'm always worried about these things. But again, I also understand the sausage has to get made, and it's not as easy as it looks from the outside. It's easy to talk, but once you get down to the nuts and bolts, it's really complicated stuff. Is it possible that it might get pushed back again, or is it just too early to tell? Are you pretty confident it's going to start July 1 of 2026? Or is that not fair to ask?
No, it's fair to ask. I'm happy to comment on it. It's certainly possible, James, but I think there was bipartisan support for the last year's changes.
Yes.
So I think it seems pretty sound to say it's coming July 1.
Yeah, and I had a bunch of people call me as we were getting to July 1, 2025, and then I kept telling people, I'm like, look, this is a brand new framework. There's so much that has to happen on the back end. And at that point, I wasn't sure what the administration changed. My biggest fear was like a conservative administration would come in and kind of rip away a lot of the changes that were positive, which fortunately that didn't happen. And when it got pushed back a year, people called me and I said, look, this is a change that I never expected to happen any time in my lifetime. The fact that you're like, is it going to be this July versus next July, or maybe even 2 years down the road? It's still such a huge advancement, a step forward that, I'm excited about it. So
me too. And it's interesting because the county clerks and through our association also worked with the delegates and the state senators to let them know, one, we need a start date for this, because to go back to the beginning of time would be impossible, right? Like we'll be working on this for the entire rest of time.
Yeah. And when you mean start date, you mean the date of offense, how old the charges are, right? And you said, I think you said it goes back to 1986, right?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. And so anything before 1986 does not apply in this statute.
So my understanding is that's our go forward date based on the code as written. Yep.
I mean, are you guys even, I mean, I guess you probably have some basement back there where you've got charges from 1970, right?
I mean, we got records for 100 years. Come down to our offsite records facility. If you want to see files, we got them, James.
Do you have that in file? No, I'm joking. That's not appropriate. So one of the big questions that I keep getting is the difference between expungement versus sealing. Can you tell me 1,000-foot view what the difference is? But also, I'm just curious on the back end, what are you guys doing differently?
So there is a difference, right? So on expungement, it's a misconception that it's destroyed, that the record is deleted and destroyed. It's expunged, it's sealed, but it's kept under seal, right? Which is our instruction, but it is almost like as if it never happened. The sealing is different in that we will be doing some back work on the back end that I can't really get too much into, but the wording applies differently to the way we're going to be handling these cases and eligible charges that make it different from expungement. But I brought out the question recently at a conference, are we going to see a reduction in the number of expungement filings because of criminal sealing coming? And I got a bunch of I don't know, looks, but I mean, I think there's that possibility.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, I think about, because I honestly haven't really thought about the logistics from an advocate side. Maybe there are scenarios where I would rather file an expungement petition versus just asking that it be sealed. Because my understanding is like you can have a charge that's no prost under the new statute, and then you could just ask that it be sealed at that point right there.
Right. That's right.
But I guess the question is begged: could it be where I'm in a situation, I'm like, no, I don't want it sealed yet. I actually want to go back and file a petition for expungement because, and correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is the expungement has essentially more of an insulation around the charge, whereas the sealing can be accessed in different ways by different agencies. Is that right?
I'm not too sure about that, but I think that there is going to probably be a decision or a conversation that's happening between counsel and client about whether we just choose the sealing at the time of the disposition, or we wait and we do a petition for expungement. But both those options will be available.
I honestly need to think that through. Do you guys anticipate as we get closer to that start date, producing more information on the clerk's website or through CLEs or whatever it is to help educate the public?
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll be putting up information in the time leading up to July 1 about this and what's coming. This is just the very beginning of it. I know Senator Servo is going to be part of a CLE, if I'm not mistaken, that's coming up to talk a little bit about his bill. It's a complicated one. I don't want to butcher it by calling myself an expert on it, but I know that I can tell you with full confidence that on our side, we're working to address what needs to happen in our e-systems to be able to take in a bulk amount of cases where we have to now apply this to charges in existing files here.
Yeah, and by the way, Scott, if you're watching, come on, we'll talk about your bill. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about? Look, you've spent 30 minutes of your time. You got a lot of stuff to do. Anything about the expungement statute, the clinic, or anything else you wanted to talk about before I let you go?
Just again, an ask to your listeners, if you're attorneys, come on out to the clinic. If you'd like to volunteer, you can email me directly, christopher.falcon@fairfaxcounty.gov. I think it's going to be a great event, and I'm glad to be able to deliver this. You have, I believe, really committed public servants in Fairfax County who like to be a little extra, as the young people say, and do things on weekends. I've promised the staff I won't be too extra, won't be creating too many programs that we got to do on weekends. I know weekends are precious, but this is one where I think we can deliver a really good service for the community and for our neighbors. I mean, that's what it's all about, James, right? Like, I got into public service because I want to help people, because I want to help my neighbors. That's what I want to get back to, right? Like, asking when you meet your elected officials, like, what are you doing to help us right now, the people? And hopefully they can give you a straight up answer about, well, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and not just creating more messes for people. But yeah, that's me. I'll get off my soapbox now.
Yeah, no, I absolutely appreciate it. And, in our profession, you hear about so many lawyers that are doing work that they're just, if you're doing contracts or, mergers and acquisitions, I'm sure you're making good money, but you probably have this burning, gnawing feeling like, what am I doing with my life? Expungements, having done a lot of them, I can tell you have a direct impact on individual lives when you shake somebody's hand, because now they're able to get a better job, they're able to get better housing, they're able to get back on their feet a little bit easier. That has a real impact. And, in a world that's so crazy right now, if you're just looking for a direct way, if you're a lawyer watching this, I'm urging you to get it done. If you are an individual that has a record and you've been just thinking, just like your wills and trust, and you're just putting it off, get it done. Chris and his team have made it very easy. And again, I'm just going to display this this PDF one more time. And again, it'll be on the show notes here. I'll link it. And Chris, I'll put your email address in there as well. So perfect. Chris, really appreciate your time, man. Look forward to working with you. And again, if you any other information you ever want to get out to the public, I'll get you 10 viewers, I promise. Okay.
Right. James, I look forward to it. Thanks again for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.